lessons in actualization. Everything that we want to know about actualization, we can learn from the rain, from observing the rain and its various moments and its various cycles, its various effects. The Hebrew word for rain, and we've been getting an awful lot of it in Hebrew, is Geshem. And Geshem is the root in Hebrew that means actualization. The word Gashmi means palpable. And Gishmei, or Gishmi would be my rains. Gishmei would be the rains of. Means how in which the will of God has become palpable in reality, how it has become physical reality. Potential exists as a cloud. The scientists are quite correct about that. And what determines whether or not that cloud is going to condense, and how it's going to condense, and what palpable actual form that infinite cloud of potential is going to take, depends upon that which makes it precipitate. And what makes the infinite cloud of potential precipitate into a particular reality is the nature of the thought that seeded the cloud of potential and made it actual. So the higher and purer we think, the higher and purer our thoughts, the more comprehensively good our thoughts are, the more the infinite cloud of potential is going to be expressed in actuality as that which is very good, and also very complex and very interesting and very variegated. This is how we as human beings cause what the scientists nowadays call the quantum collapse to occur. We think a thought, and that thought is what makes our reality happen. In the olden days, they just called it rain. They just called it Geshem. Now they have all these like newfangled, high-sounding terminology, and you know, it's wow, look at that. Do you see that? How that? Wow. Oh my. Wow, that's like stunningly gorgeous. I'll hold the camera up. So it's very, very important that we seed the cloud of infinite potential with the highest, purest, most comprehensively good for every possible thing that comes into being. And that is what causes that cloud to actualize, to become rain, to become Gashmi, to become actual, to become palpable in reality. Notice something very interesting. We have had an unprecedented amount excuse me, of rain this winter in Israel. This is absolutely unusual. The Sea of Galilee is full, and it's just beyond belief, and all the waterfalls are it's just magnificent. At any rate, we see that the land has become very fertile. The what do you call it? Déchet. Hello, grass. The stuff that you used to smoke when you were a kid. That is the reason why you can't remember anything anymore, Doreen. Grass. Wow, do you see that bird hovering like that? Look at him hover. Look at that. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh my God. Oh my God, did you see him? As you can see, it's all very lush. I'm very easily amused. It's very lush, but it's not boggy. Even there in the clearing where they've cleared a lot of the trees away, it breaks my heart. There were beautiful almond trees there. They're putting in a factory. But you can see that although there are puddles, it's not really boggy. It's not being flooded. Even though we're having huge amounts of rain in Israel, we are not being flooded. We are not being bogged down. The land is becoming fertile, not mud. See those beautiful cows grazing down there? You can see that they're completely comfortable. They're not bogged down. They're standing comfortably. When too much rain for someone to handle turns the land into mud, essentially what it has become is the actualization has caused that which is actualized to be perceived as incoherent and also very swallowing. You know, you sink in the mud, right? So it's very, very important in these days when there's so much rain. And I've been hearing about extreme flooding in the United States. It is very, very important that now when Hashem's will is being maximally actualized in the world, is becoming palpable, is becoming perceptible, is becoming the very physical world in which we live, it is essential that we think the highest possible thoughts and have the highest possible interpretations of what we see. I'm hearing many, many people, it sounds like something out of the Middle Ages, you know. I remember reading about in the Middle Ages, like everything that people didn't understand, they thought it was the work of the devil, and it was some kind of, you know, what is this, what witchcraft is this, you know, kind of a thing. I'm sorry to say it, but there are too many people who still sound like they're in the Dark Ages. Not even the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages. Everything that they don't understand has been cooked up in the devil's workshop, you know. This is bad, and that's scary, and this is HARP, and that's the CERN, and things that they know nothing about, but they're absolutely sure that it's something terrible, and they terrify themselves, and they try to terrify other people, and in so doing, rather than thoughts, they're sending out thoughts to the infinite cloud of potential coming from a place of love. They're sending out thoughts of fear and negativity, and then when Hashem's will comes down to them, it comes down to them in the form of floods that make their land incoherent because they are not able to interpret that in beautiful forms. I'm going to tell you something that you don't know. The Hebrew word ben, which is translated as son, and is also ban, which means he who understands, is equal to 702, which is the value of the word ha'aretzot, which means the lands, and also tsurot, which means forms. So if we say haben, the son, or we say haven, haban, he who understands, we are saying hatsurot, we are saying the forms. Now the name Miriam is a 850. It's a number of different things, but most importantly, for the time being for this discussion, is that it means shtei einai. It is equal to shtei einai, my two eyes. So the son of my two eyes are the forms, hello, listen to me now, that I see. That is HaYeshua. That is what issues from my two eyes are the forms that I see. And Ben is also Shevet, which is to sit, to be settled. That is where you're sitting. You are sitting in the forms that your eyes have created. And the forms that your eyes have created are the result of the thought that you think that seeds the infinite cloud of potential and makes it become actual. If the rains in your area are overwhelming, if they're not rains of blessing, you can be absolutely sure that you are not thinking right. That is your first signal that you have not seeded the infinite cloud of potential with high, pure, beautiful thoughts. And the sun that you have brought into the world is deformed. You haven't been a good progenitor. We know we are thinking the correct thoughts when the forms that we see in front of our eyes are beautiful and peaceful. This is how we know we're thinking correctly. There is an indication that you can know to be able to gauge how close or how far you are from God's will, from the original intention for the God's vision of how the creation should be. God's will and God's actualization are one and the same. There is no delay. This is what is called not the tree that bears fruit only, but it is the tree that is the fruit. The fruit tree which bears fruit. In other words, the tree and the fruit are one and the same. The cause and an effect are identical and immediate. We can gauge how far we are from that state by looking at the sophistication and the size and the complexity and the weightiness of that which we have to go through in order to have our will actualized. Okay? So if we are living in a society that is marked by, look at these birdies, aren't they gorgeous? If we are living in a society that is marked by a lot of bureaucracy, hierarchy, in order to get what you want, you have to put in this form and that form, and no, you didn't fill out the form correctly, and it's returned to you, and do it again. Okay, we'll accept the form the fourth or fifth time that you've put it in, and then it begins to go through the levels of instancia. You know, it goes from this clerk to that office. It needs this stamp, it needs that stamp, and if you are living in a world of massive bureaucracy, such that there is a delay between your will and its actualization, to the extent that it is difficult to have your will actualized, you will know how difficult, by the difficulty of that, you will know how far you are from God. What that means is, even President Trump, who I consider to be a very, very good man, found himself caught in the machinations of a massive mechanism, a massive bureaucracy, and it took 700 and something days for him to put to rest that which should, first of all, never have arisen in the first place. But if it did arise, he should have been able to shut it down immediately, but he couldn't. He couldn't because he's not really hooked directly into God. He's still praying to an idol. And if you pray to an idol, you will slow down, bog down, create all kinds of forms and all kinds of hierarchies and all kinds of mechanisms that do not allow God's will, which should be identical with your will, to be actualized. By this you will know, by this alone you will know how close or far you are to God. If you can glance at something and have it done, you're there. Your will and God's will are identical. If you have to start fighting with bureaucracies and mechanisms and procedures and red tape and all this, by that alone you will know just exactly how far from God you are. And in America, let's face it, folks, there's a whole lot of red tape and a whole lot of bureaucracy, and this is telling you something. It is not meant to be that way. It is meant to be such that your glance alone causes the infinite cloud of potential to actualize as you wish. And so all of the Gishamim, all of the Gishamim, which are rains, is heaven is coming, are for a blessing and are peaceful and make for fecundity and things being green and filled with life and peaceful, not flooding. Take a look at your world, and your world itself, that which was born of your eyes, that which is born of your consciousness itself, will tell you whether you're living in accordance with God's will or not. Thank you for listening.